Today's moment of hope comes from Psalm 23 verse 4, and it goes as follows. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. A popular piece of scripture that most likely a lot of people know. A lot of people might have heard it in Sunday school, or you might have seen it on someone's status. You might have seen it on social media. And somewhere along the line, you must have come across the scripture. And if you haven't, well, now you have. Psalm 23 plays a pivotal role in the life of David. It's one of those poems that has showcased God as the Good Shepherd, showcasing God as someone who provides and someone who gives peace, someone who guides and someone who gives protection. We see that David likens God to a shepherd, someone that is there for the flock, that oversees the flock and makes sure that the flock is going the right direction. We see that he paints a picture starting from verse 1 to verse 3 of how good it is for God to be our shepherd, or at least his shepherd. But we see in verse 4 there's a change in contrast. We see that he mentions that even though he walks through the valley of darkness, that God is going to still be with him, and for that reason he doesn't need to fear no evil. Interestingly enough, that in the moments of darkness he finds his comfort. What do I mean by that? Well, let's have a look at the scripture. David finds his comfort in knowing that the rod and staff will be the thing that helps him through the difficult times. Now, many times we would think that that is a contrast to how we should be handling in times of darkness. When we think about a rod, the Bible describes a rod as a tool of discipline. The Bible describes the rod as a tool of correction. When we look at a staff, the Bible describes a staff as a tool of guidance and leadership. So, looking at those two aspects, how do we find comfort in something that will discipline us, but also that would guide us from a place where we find comfort? Now look at this. David says that he's walking through the valley. Now, interesting fact about sheep is that the moment that sheep go into a dark place, they become comfortable. Think about it. Look at how David writes this. And so to say that when he walks through those valleys of darkness, before he could find comfort, the rod, which is discipline, and the staff, which is God's guidance, is what gets him out of the darkness of being comfortable in that situation. And because of that, he fears no evil, and therefore he has comfort in where God is taking him. You see, many times we get stuck in the moments of darkness because we find comfort in that darkness. I'm not sure what that darkness is for you this morning. Maybe it could be addiction and you find comfort. Maybe it is that someone has passed away and you find comfort in the depression and the sadness, the anxiety. Maybe a thought crossed your mind and you feel like you want to commit suicide this morning. And that is a moment of darkness where you find comfort, because maybe you feel it could end all the problems. I want to encourage you this morning that you see, maybe you find yourself in the state of darkness, but allow God's discipline and guidance to get you out of that dark season. You see, what discipline does is it conditions you to break out of the norm of what you are used to. Whenever you see someone going to the military, we see that every morning they wake up really early compared to how you would actually be when you wake up at home, which could be at a later time. So what are you doing when you're in the military and you're waking up early every morning? You are going against the grain of what you are used to. You are disciplining your body to wake up early every morning. And that is the same thing that David describes to us in this poem. That many times we made darkness our home, And now, because of God's rod and his staff, he needs to now discipline us in order for us to get out of those dark moments. Like I've mentioned before, that disciplining leads to conditioning. And when you are being conditioned, you are being guided to where God is busy taking you. It's interesting that David mentions that the rod and staff comforts him. And for that reason, he will fear no evil, for the Lord is with him. Interestingly enough, when we think about it, we get to see that David brings us to a place where he highlights that yes, your location might be dark, that what you are journeying through right now might be dark, but because of the discipline that God is helping you to keep, and because of his guidance, that evil won't be able to overthrow you. How powerful is it for you to know that? That you might be sitting here watching this, and you might be in a season where you are faced with so much temptation. You are faced with so much hurt and brokenness that is pushing you over the limit to do something that is out of the normal. But because of God's discipline that is keeping you in line, because of God's guidance that is helping you through the situation, you see that you are not alone. You see that you do not have to fear any evil. This morning, are you staying in alignment? You may be surrounded by evil. You may be walking and journeying through a dark season. But the Lord's rod is discipline and conditioning in the season to keep you in a spiritual alignment, will keep guiding you with his staff to a destination that pleases God. Be encouraged to walk firm. Be encouraged to stand firm. Be encouraged to not be comfortable in the darkness. And be encouraged to keep following God's conditioning and keep walking in God's guidance. God bless you and have a blessed day.